All right, first rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be after waivers for week 6, heading into week 7, when waivers clear at midnight, and I'm going to be there knife fighting with everybody for the guys that I really need. When it comes down to that, I don't necessarily want guys that can't win me leagues. I don't want guys that can't or just going to clog my roster. So that there should be someone else's problem. I want to know when my wide receiver 3 is going to be in my lineup. How many weeks I'm going to be using them. Carrying 2 defenses, carrying 2 quarterbacks because I'm going to be streaming are going to be more valuable to me than just that guy that I can't tell the road for how he ever gets in my lineup, and I also can't tell the road for how he wins me a league. Remember, like, some of these guys that can win me a week are important, but they're only important for the week that they can win me a week. And then, those guys that I'm not necessarily concerned with my opponents rolling out against me, they should probably not be on my roster in the first place. So anyway, week 7 buys, you're looking at the Bears and the Cowboys. Week 8, you're looking at no buys. Week 8, there's a lot of streaming defenses. You could be looking at like Detroit going up against Will Levis. The Jets are going to go up against Drake May. Green Bay's got Jacksonville. They're kind of a train wreck. The Texans are going to see Anthony Richardson. Chargers are going to see Spencer Rattler. Denver maybe going up against Carolina. Again, some of these defenses, I don't know if they're going to be available. The Chiefs, if they've been dropped, they play the Raiders in week 8. They're kind of a train wreck. And then you got Steelers going up against the Giants. The Niners, the Cowboys are kind of a train wreck. And then, if the Ravens get dropped, going up against the Browns in week 8. Planning ahead, like that roster spot on the bottom of my bench, knowing that I'm going to be rolling that defense out in a good matchup for week 8 is probably better than like some of those like ugly wide receivers, some of those like other guys that aren't going to have a lot of value, like those lottery ticket running backs. Like, yeah, roster your cuffs, yours and everybody else's, when it comes down to that. All right, let's start off with the 49ers news. Generally, I don't know what like Jordan Mason at practice Monday means. He's dealing with a shoulder. What that means, remember, they got their bye week coming up week 9. First and foremost, let's talk about, well, I can bring up him again. 28% snaps when he gets knocked out of the game. He gets knocked out. He comes back for a play in the second half and he leaves. Now, why is this important? First of all, Kyle Juszczyk, season high 65% snaps, one for 6 and a tug, and then 4 for 3 for 10. He had 2 red zone opportunities in this game, 1 carry and 1 target. Now, the other guy to be looking at before we even get into Isaac Garriendo is Patrick Taylor, 25% snaps, 5 for 16, 1 for 12, and they gave him 4 red zone opportunities in this game, 4 red zone carries. So now we can talk about Isaac Garriendo in this one. He was at 26% snaps. He did a majority of his 10 for 99 on a 76-yarder that he took a seat on. Now, 6 foot, 221, converted wide receiver, 4'3", 40 guy. Like, this is all great stuff. How much they're going to trust him and what role, that's if Jordan Mason's out. I do not want to see him in someone else's lineup. Do I think that if I rolled him out this week that he's going to give me a 40-degree day? Absolutely. Do I think that he's got a possibility of being like Sean Tucker this week? Also, absolutely. Good point by someone in the comments that they picked up Sean Tucker and they rolled him in one of their leagues and they got the spike week. Now, again, the idea behind this is sometimes when everybody else is going left, like, I want to go right. When everybody else is zigging, I want to zag because, if I want the same outcome as everybody else, I'm going to keep doing the same thing. So in this case, if Isaac Garriendo, like, if I can get him cheap or for free, something like that, that's fine. The guy that may be a little bit more interesting right now would be Patrick Taylor because, obviously those 4 red zone carries and then the 25% work that he did, he's going to probably be in the mix one way or another when it comes down to it. Now, other 49ers news, they opened the window for Ricky Pearsall. What's that mean for the rest of the wide receivers? Like, Jawan Jennings is going to be difficult. Like, Debo and Ayuk are generally going to be the guys that they're going to be. All right, Bears. Go ahead and chase those 4 passing touchdowns for Caleb Williams if he gets dropped. I'm more interested in the 4 for 56 that he had this last week. The rushing yards are going to be the ones that are consistent. Remember, Joe Burrow, 4 for 55 and a tug rushing that he did. I think it was a 47-yarder. So the rushing yards, the ability to fall in the end zone, are more important than chasing after those passing touchdowns. Again, the good way to win your league is to chase touchdowns. A good way to lose your league is also to be chasing touchdowns. DeAndre Swift in this one, you're looking at 68% snaps, 17 for 81 and a tug, 4 for 4 for 28 and a fumble not lost. He got the red zone carries. He's an RB1. Roshan was at 27% snaps, 5 for 8, 3 for 2 for 25. I think DeAndre Swift's touchdown was from the 1-yard line, so Roshan didn't get that. And then if you're in deep enough leagues that you could be stashing Khalil Herbert with all the trades that are going around, that's probably not a bad idea, but you do you. Now, when it comes to the Bears and their receivers, the only guy that I would probably be trusting coming out of the bye, and if Cole Kmet drops, he's like tight end 3 right now, would be Cole Kmet because he's a tight end and he can't break my heart. He was at 86% snaps, 5 for 5 for 70 and 2 touchdowns. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen were at 5 targets apiece. Keenan Allen and Rome were at 80% snaps. Now, both DJ Moore and Keenan Allen had 2 red zone targets. Keenan Allen cashed in his 2 red zone targets. So your guess is going to be good as mine, as guessing on the usage for these wide receivers. Like DJ Moore still may be a wide receiver 2. Rome is still like a boom bust guy. Keenan Allen's going to be like the dirty wide receiver 3. Like I don't know, and especially how inconsistent the offense is going to be. They're going to come out of the bye, and that offense might have certain things cleaned up. Like I want to be holding all these guys if I have them. At the same time, like I don't trust any of them. Not named Cole Kmet. And now DeAndre Swift is a running back 1 just based off usage. All right, already talked about Joe Burrow. The bigger news in all this, and I did see on the internet that when Zach Moss fumbled, that's when the usage flop happened. So he's at 45% snaps, 6 for 13, and then 1 for 1 for 2 in this game. Chase Brown up to 62% snaps, 10 for 53 and a touchdown, 3 for 2 for 11 and a fumble not lost. Now, I am not going to say that I necessarily trust this backfield usage. I would feel better about Chase Brown. Yeah, I think he's still got a chance to give you a sub 40 degree day. Yeah, he's probably the guy who's got a better chance to win you a week or even a league in that like running back 2 range. Like I'd be rolling him out. I probably feel worse about rolling out Zach Moss at all going into this week, like expecting that we got anything. But if you got Zach Moss and that's the only thing that you got, like at that point I'd probably be chasing after like an Isaac Garriendo or something like that. When it comes to the Bengals, Yosivas was down to 66% snaps. He did have another red zone target. T. Higgins had a red zone target. Jermaine Burton, the rookie out of Alabama, he was inactive in this game, if you're wondering about that. And then from a tight end perspective, Gesicki was down to 36% snaps, 0 usage. Drew Sample, the blocking tight end, was at 49% snaps. Eric All, he didn't get the beneficiary of more snaps or more opportunity. 43% snaps, 3 for 2 for 10. And again, from last year with these tight ends, they all seem to have a certain amount of usage. Like thinking that we're going to be able to be sneaky and get one of these guys, probably a bad idea. Tanner Hudson was active. He did 8% snaps in this game. So I'm probably going to be throwing the Bengals into I don't care category unless something substantially changes when it comes down to these guys. All right, Bills. So first and foremost, we're going to be looking at Amari Cooper gets traded from the Browns to the Bills. I think it was a 3rd round draft pick. I don't care. Now, the big news on this, like I probably would not be over or undervaluing Amari Cooper. I don't necessarily think he's like magically going to be like this wide receiver 1, and I can maybe bring him up. I don't know if they moved him over yet. He is 30. That doesn't necessarily matter as much when it comes to wide receivers, because like they can be pretty productive until like about 31 years old on average. And again, he can be a little bit more of a bully contested or a bully technician. Those guys can last a little bit longer than some of those like speed guys that like when they lose a step, they lose a step when it comes down to that. So I'm probably guessing that you're looking at more of like an 8 targeted game wide receiver 2 than you're going to be getting like that 10 to 12 targeted game like that wide receiver 1. The Bills have been operating like spreading it around. I imagine they can do that. It just means that like when they want to go after their guy that they're now quote unquote paying to go get it, it's going to be Amari Cooper when it comes down to it. So like, if you want to be buying that guy and you're getting him for like under like solid wide receiver 2 costs, like I can understand that. If you want to be selling that guy because you're getting him for over wide receiver 2 costs, I can also understand that in this one. In general, like Khalil Shakur, 38% snaps, 2 targets. Keon Coleman, 64% snaps, 4 targets. Mac Hollins, 76% or 67% snaps, 2 targets, 2 red zone targets, and he tugged on one of them. Curtis Samuel, who they paid in the offseason, 36% snaps, 4 targets, 1 red zone target. MVS, he was at 32% snaps, no usage. He was the guy that they released for Amari Cooper in this one. And when it comes down to it, deeper leagues, I mean, I imagine like Khalil Shakur coming off the ankle, his snaps may go up. He may be more of a slot-only guy. It's going to come down to like Keon Coleman, the rookie, or Mac Hollins, the good at football guy, who's going to end up being the other guy. The other thing is to think about like Keon Coleman, like the idea was that he was going to be that big slot. This would allow them to play him more in the big slot. Again, that's why I'm generally thinking this may still be like they're going to spread it around, so I wouldn't like overreact to Amari Cooper going to the Bills at this point. Like, you know, gonna get more consistency than Deshaun Watson. Like, I still wouldn't even necessarily. It's still Josh Allen. You know, like, he could be one of the best players in football. He can also be a turnover machine. And some of the stuff like the PFF guys, they're talking about, like, has the highest amount of turnover worthy plays. You know, like, so yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. And the touchdown pass he had was, like, one of those things that you shouldn't have gotten away with, but he did because he's Josh Allen. When it comes to the running back situation for the Bills, like, no news right now on James Cook. So whatever it means. And then Ray Davis, you're looking at 58% snaps, 20 for 97, 3 for 3 for 55. Again, one of those was like a contested catch downfield when it comes after that. And then Ty Johnson in this one, he was at 36% snaps, 4 for 34. Yeah, like, we're talking about, like, guys that I would be stashing on my bench that could win me a league. It's Ray Davis at this point. Like, after this week's usage, it doesn't actually matter if it's going to be type of timeshare with James Cook. James Cook could go back to the usage that he had before the injury. That's fine. He could do what he's going to do. Ray Davis, again, like, this one, guys, we're talking about in the offseason. Like, there's another injury to James Cook. Like, this usage can win you a league. And that's the long and short of, like, picking up some of these lottery tickets. What you're going to get from a week-to-week basis, like, I don't know. I don't know if Ray Davis is going to eat into James Cook. I don't know if James Cook they're going to keep the same usage. I don't know. But from a fantasy football perspective, like, at this point, like, he should be rostered. I just don't know if you're going to get any week-to-week usage. I don't know if he's going to be able to win you this week. Like, we're going to know that tomorrow. So, like, not as aggressive if I need him this week. More aggressive, if I need a league winner someplace and I have the roster spots to go after it, waiting on news. Like, again, and the other thing is, if my opponent this week is either the James Cook owner or my opponent it needs a running back, like, this is another guy that I can be blocking, making sure that I am not going to be having to see him this week going on. All right, Dalton Kincaid in this one, he was at 80% snaps versus Dawson Knox, who I believe is at I didn't write it down. He was at 63% snaps in this game. Yeah, 61% snaps. He did have the red zone target and the red zone tug. Dalton Kincaid was at 80% snaps. And again, I don't necessarily think that the Amari Cooper trade is a good thing or a bad thing for Dalton Kincaid. It can go either way. It can mean now that not everybody's going to be focusing on taking away Dalton Kincaid. He may be the best receiver, not named Amari Cooper. And then now that Amari Cooper's there, he can be the beneficiary of target or the coverage going towards Amari Cooper. You could also see the other way that there's just, like, these targets that he were getting are going to go to Amari Cooper either way. So, like, don't overvalue him. He's tight end 10 right now. And again, if someone wants to pay you for something that's over tight end 10, like, yeah, I can see taking it. If someone wants to pay you for something under tight end 10, like, or, if you can get him for under tight end 10, I can also understand that, especially with some of the tight ends that are available this week, like your Grant Calcaterra for the Eagles. Like, yeah, I could probably get around streaming Dalton Kincaid till I can figure out some of the tight end position going forward. All right, moving on, the Broncos. Not too much to say. Again, like, going after bad offenses is not a good way to win your fantasy football league. When it comes to, like, Bo Nix, 6 for 61 on the ground, 2 touchdown passes. And then from a running back perspective, Audric Estime, he was active. He did a 4% snaps, 2 for 13. Now, Javonte Williams, 67% snaps, 6 for 23, 6 for 3 for 13. Fumble lost in this game. So, like, the coaches got to trust you to be on the field. Jaleel was down to 25% snaps, and he only had 5 total opportunities in this one. And then I want to bring this up. No red zone opportunities I could see from the running backs to go on. When it comes to the wide receiver room, like, Courtland Sutton is still a sneaky low-end buy if you can get a hold of him. He did a red zone target in this one, and he scored. Josh Reynolds is on IR. Little Jordan Humphreys snaps was down 35% snaps. Vele, in this one, 62% snaps, 6 for 4 for 78. 68 air yards, so, like, those could be real routes. I couldn't find any tape on him this week. Troy Franklin, and again, know your league and know your roster. Again, this is, like, how competitive your league is, how deep your league is, like, how much you need him. So 65% snaps, 3 for 2 for 31, and a touchdown. So we could speculate that Troy Franklin is going to end up being the wide receiver 2 in the offense overall. And, because of his skill set, like a boom bust guy, it would put him in that, like, the week-to-week role when it comes down to that. Like, I don't know. Again, outside of those leagues, and I've been in those deeper leagues where there's like literally nothing on the waiver wire. Outside of those leagues, I don't know how much I'd be like going after him, but because of Cortland Sutton, like that's why I'm like a little bit less like who the wide receiver one is. If there's a guy that I'm going to be chasing in this offense as a receiver, Greg Dolch was out. You're looking at Adam Troutman down to 31% snaps. Nate Atkins was at 27% snaps. And then our boy, Lucas Kroll, 4'6", 40, 6'6", 260, third-year tight end out of Pittsburgh, 60% snaps, 4 targets, 2 for 11. Yeah, if you're worried about those tight end positions, like, yeah, I'm stashing because, again, can we tell a story about how Lucas Kroll is the wide receiver 3 the number 3 in this offense? Absolutely. And at that point, it's like he's a weekly play. It just becomes an issue of like, can he win me a league? And that's like a harder question to be answering at this point. But 60% snaps, 4 targets, like we can see a slight tick or uptick when it comes to usage and opportunity. But stashing with the expectation we're going to get at least that, if not the actual spike week coming up here, based off of that. All right. And then Marvin Mims at 31% snaps. I don't care. All right, Browns. And again, I don't care about this stuff because the offense isn't good. Because it does look like, and I was listening to some of the guys talk about this. It does look like the Browns in general, like this is ownership saying like we paid him guaranteed money. We're going to get that money when it comes out of that. So Jerome Ford, he's got a hamstring. Deontay Foreman, and I wrote this down. He did get the red zone carry in this game. 35% snaps, 10 for 31, 2 for 2 for 16. Pierre Strong, 53% snaps, 8 for 43, 3 for 2 for 35. That would be the guy that I would say is safe. But again, he's not going to get the red zone work. I imagine, and we're tracking Nick Chubb is supposed to be actually playing this week. Nick Chubb is likely to get the red zone work if they get down there when it comes down to that. So like, it depends on like how much you're going to pinch that you're going to go after like Pierre Strong in a bad offense to get the other stuff when it comes down to that. Now with Amari Cooper leaving, you can speculate on Jerry Jeudy. Again, I don't know how much. Like a lot of why Amari Cooper wasn't good in Cleveland was because Deshaun Watson couldn't get him the football. So like if you think that that's going to change with Jerry Jeudy, yeah, does this upgrade Jerry Jeudy? Maybe. Like I don't know how much I'd be tracking on that. The other thing would be that Cedric Tillman would be the guy, second-year tight end out of Tennessee, 37% snaps. He would be the guy that I would see getting the massive uptick. Now again, Deshaun Watson's still not going to get him the football, so until Famous Jameis comes in, it probably doesn't matter in general. Njoku off the knee MRI, he was at 74% snaps, 7 for 5 for 31, 16 air yards, did get a red zone opportunity. Again, some of these other tight ends that I would be chasing just because the offense is so bad with Deshaun Watson. All right, Buccaneers, no news when it comes to Rachaad White and his foot situation. Bringing him up right here. So no news on this one right now. Bucky Irving in this one was at 64% snaps, 14 for 81, a touchdown, 2 for 2 for 24, 4 red zone carries on top of that. Sean Tucker, he comes in, and again, this is like a weird game strip because the Buccaneers jumped out ahead 17-0. Saints brought it back to like they took the lead 27-24, and then the Buccaneers like finished off the scoring on the day. So with Sean Tucker, 38% snap, 14 for 136, a touchdown, 3 for 3 for 56, a touchdown, was getting work when the game was still like competitive. If you're worried about that, 2 red zone carries, and the coach said this is going to be the dreaded 3-headed monster. So like again, this would be another guy that you're expecting that you may get some type of like timeshare if Rachaad White hits or misses another week. But we can talk about like this guy, especially in deeper leagues, is at least a lottery ticket that could win leagues if he gets the opportunity based off like a 1 week sample size. I probably will be waiting for waivers to clear and picking up for relatively for free, depending on like my league size and how desperate I am and all that stuff going on down the line. Like I would not necessarily be concerned with rolling against him, even if Bucky or Rachaad White ends up missing another game. I don't know how consistent any of this is going to be. I do think he's really good at football. He's really good. Like the reason why he's in the position that he is supposedly he had like a heart condition, and that's why he went undrafted coming out of Syracuse, if you're into that type of thing. Now, Mike Evans' snaps were down, and again, this game was wonky. So take this like down to 57% snaps. He did have a red zone target. Chris Godwin was at 94% snaps in this one with 13 targets. He did have 2 tugs. One of those was a red zone target. Jalen McMillan, coming off the hamstring, was only at 18% snaps. And then Sterling Shepard was a guy that came in 75% snaps because Trey Palmer was out with his concussion. The other sneaky guy to be looking at, I have him written down, is Ryan Miller pops up. And I had to go look him up. 42% snaps, 1 for 1 for 39. Goes back to practice squad. Converted tight end, and you're looking at like 6'2", 220, 4'5", 240 guy. Like this is interesting and probably more from a dynasty standpoint, but just one of those things to be looking at. Cade Otton with all this stuff, 6 targets, 2 red zone targets, and he gets a tug on that one. So like fringe, mostly because he's just on the field as much as he is, and some of those times like the ball's gonna fall into his hand magically to get that done. All right, moving on to the Cardinals. They were blown out, so take some of this usage with a grain of salt. The biggest one to be looking at would be James Conner with the ankle. And now, again, because of the blowout, I don't know if like he lost time because they're just like, hey, you're old, and we're going to take you out of the game because we're getting blown out. Again, if you think that you're going to get sneaky, Trey Benson wasn't getting run before, and then he's only 19% snaps, 5 for 26 in this game. DeMercado, again, not necessarily a good offense. Probably not going to get some of the fun work that's going to go to Trey Benson if James Conner misses. But 53% snap, 5 for 25, 7 for 5 for 39. That would be a guy. I think that you're looking at like a very 40-degree day running back 2 this week if James Conner misses. And again, like how many weeks is James Conner going to miss when it comes down to that? Like I probably would put a sneaky bid on him or be picking him up in every league that I can if he moves through waivers for free at that point. That's how I would deal with that. Now, moving on to the wide receiver room. Marvin Harrison, he's in the concussion protocol, and just the way guys have been rolling through the concussion protocol right now, I would imagine he's going to stay there this week. I did see the tape on him. He got up and like crumbled to the ground again. The main guy would be Michael Wilson, 95% snaps, 4 for 2 for 21, and a touchdown in this one, like 2 red zone targets to go along with that. Now, Greg Dortch, if you're in deep enough leagues that you have to be chasing those vacated top opportunities, and again, that's why I think like DeMercado would be the guy. Like vacated opportunities tend to go to running backs, then tight ends, and they already got a unicorn when it comes to Trey McBride. Then you're looking at Greg Dortch. The other thing to be looking at would be that Zay Jones right now, and hopefully you guys hear the track meet. Zay Jones would be activated to 53-man roster off of being suspended in this one. And then Trey McBride, the unicorn, 93% snaps, 8 for 8 for 96 to go along with this in this game. Like the rest of the tight ends, like don't really matter. Chargers, they were in a little bit of a blowout. And again, this is one of those things that like they jumped out to, I think it was a 23-3 lead or something like that, and then 16 points late by the Broncos in this one. So in this case, running back situations, J.K. Dobbins, like he's probably not, I wouldn't go as far as say like a running back 1, but like close enough, very solid running back 2. 25 for 96, a touchdown, 2 for 2 for 6 to go along with this. 4 red zone carries, and he tugged on one of them. How bad was necessarily the blowout at a certain point when it comes to the Chargers? Like the third string running back, Hassan Hoskins, 4 for 2 for 5 in this game. And that, remember, like Gus Bus is on the IR. And then Kaimani Vidal, like this is the one, like the league winner. Again, if you're in those right situations where you need that lottery ticket in the bottom of your bench, 24% snaps, 4 for 11, 2 for 2 for 40, a touchdown. It was a wheel route, and that's important because this is design receiving work. That's one of the checks of like guys that can win me leagues. And again, this is important because that means that they can design particular design plays for a player, knowing that he can go and get the football, and it's not just check down monster work. That's the higher or the lower probability, like more efficient plays can go to a guy like Vidal. And I don't necessarily think that like Dobbins anymore after all the injuries is top end that he could have done before all the injuries. That's why I would generally think that like there's a possibility that Vidal is going to eat into him a little bit, lower the overall ceiling and the floor of Dobbins. Now, if Glad McConkey was dropped in your league for whatever reason, like that would be like one of the main guys to go out and knife fight for. So on this one, And again, this was kind of a blowout. 63% snaps. He did leave with a head injury and come back into the game. 8 for 4 for 43. And then the two things that like we generally look at would be did have a red zone target and did have 97 air yards. So again, that's what not just the ugly stuff to go along with this. Now, Quentin Johnston was at 41% snaps. He left with an ankle. He had a red zone target. Josh Palmer, 55% snaps. He had a red zone target. Fakoku was at 51% snaps, 4 for 2 for 44, 78 air yards. Would maybe be looking at like thinking about him in deeper leagues with some of the wide receivers. If Quentin Johnston's out and Trey Palmer's snaps were that low, like Fakoku could end up sneaking in those deeper leagues when it comes down to it. No news on DJ Shark. Chargers tight ends generally don't care about them, but we can talk a little bit about like consolidation of opportunity. So Hayden Hurst goes out with a groin in this one, and then Will Disley like pops up 67% snaps, 5 for 4 for 26. So we could get like bell cow Will Disley. If you got to be in a deep enough league that you're going to be chasing after the Chargers blocking tight end, but like it's there. Like we could talk about that as a streamer. Now when it comes to the Chiefs, the big news in all this, well, I guess there's two. So if Juju is available on your wire, like poor man's Rashee Rice, like 8 targets, 7 for 130, that would be a little bit interesting. There's probably guys like I would want Ladd in the air yards than Slant Boy, Juju Smith-Schuster when it comes down to that. And then the other news in all this, and this would have a lot of knock-on effect with all these guys. Like Clyde was activated from the non-football injury related list to the active roster. So I can't necessarily imagine that they're going to run Steele, P. Ryan, Hunt, and CEH. They could on game day, but if they do all that, like some of these guys are going to cannibalize each other at this point. So I don't know if you're going to get the same type of usage out of Kareem Hunt. 63% snaps, 27, 102, touchdown, 1 for 1 for 15. One of the big things with CEH is like, yeah, he's the trustworthy work guy. That's why they brought him back. And now they have a lot of trustworthy work guys when it comes down to that. And then the one guy that they don't trust, Carson Steele. So Carson Steele is either going to be inactive, but then they don't have a special teams player, or they're going to have someone else be inactive, or they're going to bring them all out there. Like there's no like real good guy. I would say like it probably downgrades Kareem Hunt the most part when it comes down to that. All right, Colts. Anthony Richardson is tracking towards playing right now. Whatever that means, it probably just downgrades most of the players. Jonathan Taylor right now, he's looking like he's trending towards being out. Trey Sermon, not good at football. 60% snaps, 18 for 29 in this one. I want to make sure he didn't. 3 red zone carries before I talk. And then Tyler Goodson, 39% snaps, 8 for 51, 5 for 4 for 14. In this one, he did have 2 red zone carries and 1 red zone target. That would be the guy that I'd be a little bit more interested in because of the low efficiency. Now, the other thing is Evan Hull. They did like him last year's like 5th round draft pick out of Northwestern. Very similar in a lot of ways to Chase Brown, the way I saw these guys. So and Eric Gray, good football players, not necessarily like great at anything. He would be the guy that I could definitely see getting the opportunity, and I could definitely see like Trey Sermon getting cut, especially when Jonathan Taylor comes back. This is generally what caused Eric Sermon to get bounced around the league, is he's probably not good at football. 18 for 29. Let's see. Michael Pittman, I did see this today, and I don't know how much I would necessarily be tracking that. Like injury reserve not off the table for Michael Pittman. I don't know what that means. It says he gutted out the week 6, so could still happen. You're looking at the consolidation of targets if that does occur in this one. So we'll start off with Adonai Mitchell, if I can bring him up someplace. So he was at 21% snaps, 4 for 2 for 9, and a red zone target. So when he's on the field, they're trying to get the football to him. Josh Downs, and again, most of these guys would be downgraded if when Anthony Richardson is the starting quarterback. And we're looking at Josh Downs, 79% snaps, 9 for 7 for 66, 2 red zone targets. That's with Joe Flacco. I don't know how to track any of these guys. Alec Pierce would probably be the guy that I would be most. This is funny. The most confident in rolling out there with Anthony Richardson would be chasing the air yards of Alec Pierce. So he was 4 for 0 in this game, but he did have 95 air yards. So yeah, if Anthony Richardson's going to be out there just throwing bombs, like he would upgrade Alec Pierce and downgrade Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, who might go on IR, and then Adonai Mitchell, even though there's consolidation of targets. And I don't care about the Colts tight ends. All right, Redskins, first and foremost, like Jane Daniels, when you're right, you're right. B-Rob was out with a knee in this game, and there's no news on him last time I looked. The main beneficiary of this, and again, this is kind of a little wonky because the Commanders were basically playing from behind most of the game, trying to claw their way back in it. They were like 2 scores behind for most of the game. So this 80% snaps, 9 for 21, 5 for 4 for 47. I don't know how consistent that would be if B-Rob is still out, with Jeremy Nichols doing 37% snaps, only 2 carries in this game. So I don't know if you're going to get bell cow Austin Eckler or if there's a more manageable game script with the Redskins that you're going to be able to look at that. Like with Carolina, I don't know, again, if Austin Eckler is going to be like full bell cow, or because they would project to beat the Panthers if you're going to get like Jeremy Nichols. The other thing is we're kind of hoping that like Michael Wiley would be the guy that would revert to the active roster. It wasn't. They just brought Chris Rodriguez up. So like if that's who the running back 4 is as far as the Redskins are concerned. All right. Scary Terry was at 80% snaps, 7 for 6 for 53. 2 red zone targets. He tugged on both of those, 81 air yards. Again, just like Amari Cooper, I don't know if I would necessarily say that's a wide receiver 1. We could talk about like week to week variance, but like that's very close. That's all we have to know. And again, I have my Jane Daniels, and I'm trying to stack, and those owners out there are knife fighting. They're not giving him up for a bag of chips. Noah Brown in this one, and I should finish with Scary Terry. I'm not entirely sure he's worth overpaying on. That's the last why I would put it out that way. He's worth spending on. I don't know if he's necessarily like worth overpaying to go get a certain amount of that consistency down the line. So Noah Brown in this one, this is what we were tracking on. 64% snaps, 8 for 4 for 58 in this game. He may be the wide receiver too. So like dart throw land, 106 air yards, red zone target, very fringe. Like if we can continue to talk about this, like maybe wide receiver 2 down the line. The 2 other wide receivers that I can't pronounce their names on, which would be like Olamide Zacchaeus and De'Ami Brown. They were at 39% snaps and 32% snaps. Olamide had 6 targets in this game. Like I don't particularly care. Luke McCaffrey was down to 37% snaps, 1 target. Zach Ertz, and again, remember the game flow, he was up to 80% snaps, 5 for 4 for 68, red zone target, 49 air yards. So like, if he's available, and I already picked him up for Jane Daniels. If I can't have Scary Terry, I'm going to be rolling out Zach Ertz in the process. Benson Ott was down to 19% snaps, still no usage. And then the other guy that we were tracking, Colson Yankoff, he was only used in special teams this game, so like I'm probably not going to be tracking him further. All right, the Cowboys were blown out in this one, so like again, take certain things with a grain of salt. CeeDee Lamb only played 71% snaps. He did have 14 targets to go along with this. Zeke was up to 40% snaps. He did have a red zone carry, but again, this was in garbage time. Rico Dowdle was only at 28% snaps, and again, like remember all this stuff. Hunter Lupke, the tight end or the fullback, was at 32% snaps. No vulture. When it comes to Rico Dowdle, 5 for 35, and then at 6 for 5 for 30. So even on the low snap share, that's a 40-degree day from your running back too. Like I'm not going to overthink that, regardless of how inconsistent or bad the Cowboys' offense is, and some of the offenses that we thought were going to be good are going to be bad. No news on Dalvin Cook moving up. Jalen Tolbert was at 93% snaps, 5 targets, 73 air yards. Brooks. God, what's his name? Is it Jalen? Yeah, Jalen Brooks. Jalen Brooks was at 71% snaps. He did have 6 targets in this. I didn't write down the air yards, so there probably weren't a lot of air yards to go along with this. And to show how poorly the Cowboys are being managed right now, Kevon Turpin, he's their like gadget, like 4.340 guy, 4.240 guy, 5'9", 153, 46% snaps in this game, 7 for 4 for 23 or 24. Now, when you're doing like your roster construction stuff and you have like Jake Ferguson, 67% snaps, 4 for 3 for 11, and then your second round draft pick from 2 years ago is at 30% snaps in this game because you're giving like you're giving snaps to your gadget guy because you don't know how to generate offense. That's not a very good sign when it comes to how you're being managed and coached at this point. Now, Dolphins, Tua's supposed to be back this year, not this week. Like do with that with what you will. A-Chain, he was in a non-contact jersey. The expectation is if he doesn't, or if A-Chain misses, Raheem Mostert, like 56% snaps, 19 for 80 last week, that would be consistent. If Jalen Wright's available, because you can tell the story about how Jalen Wright is either going to be in a 50-50 split this week, or he's going to get like pretty close to the boat because they might as well see what they got with Tua out. It would be stashing Jalen Wright with that expectation that you might be able to do that if you're desperate enough to chase a dart throw. And I don't think I have anything else to say about the Dolphins. Eagles in this one. So I did see this being talked about with the Eagles and Barkley is his target share dropped because A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith was back. So this period between week 2 and week 4, when he was getting like 4 and 5 targets a game, that was because there's vacated opportunities. They tend to go to running backs. Now he's back to 2. Does that mean that he's downgraded? Absolutely. Does that still mean that he's not going to be a league winner, have legendary upside season? No, it doesn't. But it just means like know what you got when it comes to Saquon. That receiving work, also design street receiving work, it's probably not going to go to him as long as they're at full strength. Jahan Dotson in this one, he was at 32% snaps. He led all the wide receivers that were not named A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They were in 2 tight ends even after Dallas Goedert went out of the game. So 5% snaps, Dallas Goedert. He leaves with a hamstring. Jake Stoll, the third string tight end, he was at 63% snaps in this game. And that's when we can talk about like Grant Calcaterra. And when I went and looked him up, I remembered him because I watched tape, and he's catching touchdown passes from Baker May at Oklahoma. So then he gets concussions. He quote unquote retires from football, and then he goes to SMU, and he's like a 6th-round draft pick by the Eagles because he only has like 400 yards as a senior at SMU. He runs a 4.62 40. And watching his tape, yeah, he's athletic to say the least on that one. So I can understand the 92% snaps, 4 for 4 for 67. Now this was on me. The higher snap share at the beginning of the season, like I'm thinking this is because like this is their blocking tight end. No. This is like their 3rd or 4th best receiver out of the bunch. That's why his snap share is so high after watching some of the catches that he was making with like Baker Mayfield. Yeah. So like that would be the guy. Like I don't know how long you're going to get Dallas Goedert out for, but like this is the number 3 option for the Eagles for whatever that's worth. And it's a tight end, which means he can't break my heart when it comes down to that. All right, Falcons in this one. Let's talk about the running back situation. So you're looking at Bijan in this one, 56% snaps, 15 for 95, 2 touchdowns, 4 for 3 for 10, 4 red zone carries, 2 tugs off of that, 1 red zone target. Yeah, I'd rather Bijan be on the field less and be more efficient with what he's got because this is great. This is great usage. Tyler Algier, and I had to go check this real quick. So 41% snaps, 18 for 105 and a touchdown, 1 for 1 for 3. So now we can start talking about like he is David Montgomery and Bijan is Jahmyr Gibbs. Now the other thing when I bring up Tyler Algier in this game against Carolina is he had 9 red zone opportunities in this one, a red zone target and 8 red zone carries. So yeah, if someone dropped Tyler Algier, not only has he got like road to league winner, but like this would be enough to say like maybe you should be tracing this usage going into next week going on. Drake London was at 10 targets in this one. He did have 3 red zone targets. So again, like this would be another one to saying like, hopefully you spent on Drake London. Darnell Mooney, 5 targets, 2 red zone targets, only 19 air yards. So again, he is probably still a wide receiver 2. Not going to win me a league. I don't know. Like I would be still looking to upgrade him on a week-to-week basis. Ray McLeod was at 83% snaps, 4 targets. Their tight end usage was up overall in this game. It didn't all go to Kyle Pitts though. Again, his snaps are still down. 64% snaps, 5 for 3 for 70. Most of that was done on a 52-yarder. That was not air yards. That was like catch and run because he's athletic. So again, like I'm not as concerned with the overall snaps going down, as long as they're more efficient on the less snaps. And Kyle Pitts, again, I don't need to be slamming my sports car into a brick wall when it comes down to some of that stuff. All right, Daniel Jones for the Giants, he did have 11 for 56 in the rushing game in this one. So that would still keep him on the fringe of streamability. Like, yeah, not going to be a good offense. And this was also with like Neighbors being out. No news on Neighbors, if you're wondering about that. Devin Singletary, no news on him right now. The rumors that I was seeing on the internet today when it comes to Tyrone Tracy is, even when Devin Singletary comes back, Tyrone Tracy is going to get about 70% of the snaps, and Singletary is just going to be the trustworthy guy. So that probably means that the goal line work is going to go to Singletary over Tyrone Tracy. But the 6 for 6 for 57, that may end up being consistent, that he's going to get that. And then he did tug on his red zone carry. Eric Gray was at 18% snaps, 3 for 13. So I can imagine that the overall usage when Singletary gets back is going to be very similar to what we saw this week. And then Devin Singletary is going to get very specific work, pass blocking reps, and maybe some of the goal line stuff when it comes down to that. But Tyrone Tracy, shouldn't be available anywhere, and definitely should not be dropped at this point. So again, like I said, no news on Malik Neighbors in this one. And this is one of the weird things where we could talk about Darius Slayton, not Steve Slayton. Darius Slayton may be one of those wide receiver handcuffs. Probably shouldn't be dropped in any leagues that he's available, because again, I don't know how these magical 11 targets just magically go away. But with Neighbors, he may be a wide receiver handcuff on this one. 107 air yards, 11 for 6 for 57 when it comes down to that. So stash all over the place. Wandell was at 81% snaps, 11 for 5 for 50. He did have 69 air yards, which is pretty good. All things considered, quote unquote slot only guy in this one. Jalen Hyatt was the wide receiver 3, 81% snaps, 4 for 1 for 6. He did have 61 or 65 air yards. Theo Johnson, probably still maybe a streamer during specific weeks, but probably more of a dynasty thing. 89% snaps, 3 for 3 for 30 in this one. All right, moving on to the train wreck that is Jacksonville. And I'll just say with Trevor Lawrence, I did see the tape, 4 touchdown passes were dropped this week. So Travis Etienne, no news, week to week with a hamstring. That means he's probably going to miss some time. Tank Bigsby with that. Remember, Etienne in this one before he goes out, he's at 18% snaps. The rest of this game, pretty much a blowout. Tank Bigsby only 27% snaps, 7 for 24. So again, some of the backs that were out there chasing, Dearness Johnson, 56% snaps, 6 for 28, 2 for 2 for 16. He's probably going to get 50% of the work, of the trustworthy stuff. Probably not going to get the red zone carries in this one. I want to make sure. Didn't see any red zone carries to go along with this. So Tank Mill may still get the red zone carries, but he's going to have his design usage, but the rest of the dirty work is still going to go to Dearness Johnson. So, if you're worried about that, you're rolling out your tank shares this week because you think you're going to get full bell cow, I imagine you're probably not going to get full bell cow when it comes to Tank Bigsby at this point. Brian Thomas, 79% snaps, 6 targets, 2 red zone targets, dropped the touchdown. Christian Kirk, 74% snaps, 6 targets, 2 red zone targets, dropped a touchdown. Gabe Davis, 69% snaps, 5 for 4 for 45, 92 air yards, 4 red zone targets. He caught 2 of them. He also dropped 2 of them, 2 by Davis. So he dropped two of his red zone targets. He tugged on 2 of them, and he had 4 total targets in general. I want to make sure. So he dropped 2 of his 4 targets, and he caught the other 2. That's this how it went for the Jaguars. So Parker Washington was at 29% snaps, and I bring this up because of all the trades that are going on. If you're in a deep enough league, I could see definitely Christian Kirk would be the guy. Gabe Davis got 1 more year that they have to pay him. Parker Washington or Christian Kirk would be the guy that I think they could move based off of some of the speculation that was in the offseason. Evan Ingram coming back from the hamstring, he was at 61% snaps, but again, this is 10 for 10 for 102, a fumble lost in this one. He had 58 air yards on his 10 for 10. So remember, this is mostly design check down monster work where they just get it to him and let him run because he's an athletic freak. Brenton Strange, with this usage coming back, 37% snaps, 2 for 1 for 11. And he did have the red zone opportunity with this going on. So, like, I wouldn't be chasing Evan Ingram. I would be selling. And if he's available out there, that's how I think. So the Jets, they did trade for Devontae Adams. I think this definitely like downgrades Garrett Wilson. I don't think it downgrades him a lot. I would say they're both going to be about like the 8 target a game range. So like high end twos. Garrett Wilson like started off. He did look like at the beginning of the season, like going into the season during the draft, he did look like he had a road to be like a league winner, be wide receiver 1 overall. Not a very good start to the season. And then you're looking at like these 2 spike weeks, like 23 targets. And again, these were not very efficient. 10 targets, again, 2 touchdowns. Now, the reason why I bring this up is I could definitely see that like going back to like, 7 to 9 targets a game, that would be sustainable with Devontae Adams. The bigger issue is the 4 red zone targets that Garrett Wilson had. Like, that's not going to be sustainable. Now, Alan Lazard, he would have popped up on Chasing the Dragon. I forgot to put him up there, but it doesn't matter at this point. I imagine he's going to stay the wide receiver 3. 94% snap, 7 for 6 for 114 touchdown. That was a 52-yard Hail Mary. In this one, he did have 2 red zone targets again. I imagine those are going to go away. I did see that the Jets are shopping Mike Williams, and then Aaron Rodgers came out, threw him under the bus, said he ran the wrong route on the interception at the end of the game. If you're into that type of thing. Another interesting thing that I did see about the Jets is Tyler Conklin was down to 73% snaps in this game, 3 for 2 for 10. Now, where did those snaps go? 48% snaps, third-year tight end Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, 3 for 2 for 7. So it's like, if I was chasing Tyler Conklin as an ugly tight end streamer, like I probably wouldn't, and I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know why this took place the way that it did with some of the other guys that were out there in this one. Let's see. Moving on to the Lions, and this, like, I'm not going to talk too much about the Lions because all I have to say to start off is that they gave 2 red zone opportunity to offensive linemen. Now, it's not just funny. From a real football perspective, that means other teams have to waste their time preparing for these trick plays that they're probably never going to see, right? So that's probably part of the reason why they threw those plays out there. It's fun, but also like now teams know that it's in your bag of tricks, and they have to spend an inordinate amount of time on a play that you're just like, I'm never going to run that again. Haha. So Jahmyr Gibbs was at 54% snaps. He had 2 red zone carries, 1 red zone target. David Montgomery, 31% snaps, 2 tugs, 3 red zone carries in this one. The third string running back, Craig Reynolds, was 16% snaps. Vaki was only at 1% snaps. That's a pretty good indication that like he may not be in the plans. When it comes to the wide receivers, Tim Patrick did have a red zone target in this one. The Sun God had 2 red zone targets. And Laporta, if I can bring him up, 62% snaps, 1 for 1 for 52 and a touchdown. Yeah, they just had a good time. So I don't know how much you can take out of any of that. When it comes to the Packers, lots of stuff to talk about. I didn't write this down, but I believe Emmanuel Wilson had a red zone opportunity in this one. But Josh Jacobs, 63% snaps, 18 for 62, 3 for 3 for 28, and a red zone carry. And then Wilson was at 32% snaps, 9 total opportunities. I think, again, like one of those was red zone opportunity. Christian Watson had a red zone target. Romeo Doubs had 2 red zone targets. Jaden Reed, if I can bring him up, talk about him. He did have a red zone target, but he's dealing with an ankle. And then Dontavian Wicks, and I talked about this on Chasing the Dragon, week to week with a shoulder, so expect that he's going to miss a week. So, again, with those consolidated targets, like Christian Watson's role, Romeo Doubs' role, they're entirely different monsters. You're primarily chasing a 40-degree day with Doubs. With Christian Watson, you're chasing this massive spike week with the chance that he's just gonna bust. Jaden Reed would say the guy that I would roll out there if he misses the weeks. This would move up Bo Melton, and I think this would significantly move up Bo Melton. If he's out there, because you could see like the end of 2023 when he was getting usage, 6 targets in week 16, 9 targets in week 17. week 18, 7 targets, and I believe he scored a playoff touchdown, something like that too, to go along with this. So this would be a massive upgrade to him. And then if both Reed and Wicks move up, like that would move up Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, paying attention to all that. Tucker Kraft does disappoint. He was at 82% snaps, 4 for 2 for 13 in this one. All right, Panthers. Lots of pretty good, interesting stuff to be breaking down with Panthers. So first and foremost, like Bryce Young sighting in this game. So who knows when Bryce Young's going to get the job back. Jonathan Brooks, the window was open for him. For the time being, Chuba Hubbard, he's going to be a running back one. Drink of water. 82% snaps, 18 for 92, 6 for 5 for 11, fumble not lost, 3 red zone carries, 2 red zone targets. Yeah, and this is probably going to remain relatively consistent. I could actually say that I think you're going to get 4 more weeks of Chuba Hubbard. I think that's, even when Jonathan Brooks gets ramped up, I don't think you're going to actually see the flop until like week 12 if you're worried about that type of thing. Now, if you are the Chuba Hubbard owner, I probably would be cuffing with Miles Sanders. In this one, 23% snaps, 1 red zone carry, 1 red zone target, because he would be the main guy that would probably take over during that ramp-up period. And when it comes to Jonathan Brooks, like, your good guess is as good as mine. I don't know what they're going to be doing down the line. Maybe you're going to get like some type of 50-50 split with like Chuba and Jonathan Brooks. If the offense is serviceable enough, considering what we've seen with like the Falcons and the Lions, like maybe both of them are going to be a roll at that point. Like league winner Jonathan Brooks probably definitely off the table without an injury when it comes down to it. Deontay Johnson, 10 targets. He did tug on his red zone target. Xavier Leggett, 77% snaps. He did tug on his red zone target. The main one, as Jonathan Mingo was down to 45% snaps, he only had 1 target in this game. This is likely not going to matter outside of your dynasty leagues, but there was speculation during with all the chatter of Devontae Adams that Deontay Johnson can get moved because of how bad they are, and they are not expecting him back next year. So Jalen Colker, the undrafted free agent out of Holy Cross, he was up to 65% snaps, 3 for 3 for 30. Now, the other thing I would bring up with all of this is Adam Thielen. I can't imagine there's a reason to bring him off of IR. So like this could stay relatively consistent. So definitely, you're looking at like stashing in deeper leagues, like really deep leagues, and then in dynasty leagues, yeah, if he's available, yeah. Tommy Tremble was still out with a concussion. Jatavion Sanders was at 73% snaps, 7 for 5 for 49, fumble not lost, and a red zone target, so you can think about streaming him. Ian Thomas did come off of IR, 33% snaps, 3 targets, and then a red zone target to go along with that. All right, the Patriots. So I've already talked about Drake May on Chasing the Dragon, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. Would stream around him as a quarterback one for the rest of the season in specific matchups. He does have a lot of good matchups. I would be rolling him out against the Jaguars this week, chasing the rushing upside and the rushing touchdowns or the passing touchdowns. Like, again, this is one of the ones where with the Jaguars chasing the touchdowns is probably a good idea. So Ramondre was out with a foot. Didn't get full bell cow. Antonio Gibson, 48% snaps. You're looking at 17 total opportunities, 4 for 3 for 24 in the passing game. Very inefficient, 13 for 19 in the rushing game. That may not entirely been his problem with some of the offensive line problems they're having. JaMychal Hastings was at 32% snaps, 3 for 12, another 2 for 1 for 9. Slightly interesting would be Terrell Jenkins. He was elevated from the practice squad, so not entirely a blowout. It was a blowout at the second half, but it was 14-7 at halftime. So I don't know where the snaps took place. 21% snaps, 5 for 13 in this one. So that would be a little interesting in your dynasty leagues, like figuring out what's going on with all that. Considering, so Pop Douglas was at 62% snaps, 9 for 6 for 92 and a touchdown. These were slant boy check down monster routes again. So if you want to be chasing that in your deeper leagues, not going to win you a league, probably has a certain amount of sustainability with Drake May. I'm not going to say that's wrong. Definitely don't want to see him in someone else's lineup. I'm not going to be stashing him on the bottom of my bench. If I'm going to be picking him up, it's going to be because I need to roll him soon, or I need to roll him now. 79 air yards, but again, like a lot of these look like they were extended slant boys. Jalen Polk, and I did see the coach come out and talk about that he's got some stuff he needs to clean up and he needs to block better. He did in college. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. 65% snaps, 4 for 1 for 4 in this game. So, like, this is one of those things like when you're wrong, you're wrong. Keon Butte in this one. None of the Patriots wide receivers had any red zone opportunities, if you're wondering. 83% snaps, 3 for 3 for 59 and a touchdown. And his long was a 40-yarder that he got in. Kendrick Bourne was at 52% snaps coming off of IR with the ACL. KJ Osborne in this one, he was down to 0% snaps in this one after signing him off season. Probably more of a special teams guy, like team guy. Hunter Henry was at 71% snaps, 5 for 3 for 41. Red zone target, he tugged on that. So he's back up the streamability because Drake May is better than Jacoby Brissett. Raiders, and again, the Raiders are a train wreck, and we'll get into more of the Raiders train wreck. So first and foremost, like after like they trade Devontae Adams to the Jets, Dylan Labe, he gets like 1 carry and he fumbles, and that was the end of Dylan Labe's day. So like the chances of Dylan Labe being a league winner at this point are probably very slim coming into the season. Zamir White with a groin, he's out. No news on that. Alexander Madison, 68% snaps, 14 for 33 and a touchdown, 5 for 5 for 32. Like if you're like really, really desperate, he had 3 red zone carries. This is going to be a bad offense. The other thing to look at is Amir Abdullah, 30% snaps, 4 for 24, 5 for 3 for 14, 2 fumbles. One of them was lost. Like I don't know. Like you really have to be in a bad spot to be chasing Alexander Madison, and the possibility the Raiders are going to get in the red zone. Aiden O'Connell in this one was not good in replacement of Gardner Minshew. 40 for 27, 227, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. So again, and that was with their top 2 wide receivers out. So I'll throw Aiden O'Connell a bone. That was with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, both out in this one. And then the other thing is like Trey Tucker, 95% snaps, good. 2 targets, nothing else. So that's just how it rolls sometimes. In fantasy football, expecting that we're going to get that overall in this one. I don't think there's anybody else I really care about. Brock Bowers, he's still going to be like low end, stuffed unicorn. 79% snaps, 10 for 9 for 71 in this one. I want to pull this one up. 1 red zone target. So like when they get down there, they are looking to go to Brock Bowers and Alexander Madison. Again, I don't want pieces of bad offense if I can get away with it. All right, the Rams were on bye, and you're looking at coming out of the bye. So the big news is that Cooper Kupp, I guess, worked out with trainers, and everything looks good. That's coach speak for like he's not going to play this week. So even with if he does play, like Puka Nacua is still going to be on IR. You could theoretically talk about like Jordan Whittington stepping up, being in that wide receiver 2 range. So some of these targets, the 8 targets week 4 on 97% snaps, 10 targets week 5 are probably going to remain consistent. And you got to remember, if you're chasing after some of these guys, like I would rather have catches coming from like Matt Stafford than some of these other guys. DeMarcus Robinson was at 97% snaps going into the bye, and then Tutu Atwell was at 81% snaps, 10 for 6 for 58. Your guess is going to be like, do you think DeMarcus Robinson is going to stay in that role, or Tutu is going to stay in that role, and then Jordan Whittington's not going to be part of that? That's going to be the guess out of all these guys. I would generally say that like Jordan Whittington fits in and plays that Puka Nacua role because they're lining him like a fullback and a tight end and all that stuff. That would be Jordan Whittington. That's why I would generally think that like it will be Kupp and Whittington, and then at that point like Tutu Atwell and Robinson. And I probably don't care about any of those other guys other than chasing like Jordan Whittington at that point. And then Colby Parkinson coming out of the bye at 79% snaps, 13 targets. If Cooper Kupp comes back, like he's no longer streamable probably when it comes down to that. And then the other thing is coming out of this bye, depending on how deep your league is and waivers, Blake Corum would be a league-winning stash at this point, like 14% snap, 5 for 25, 1 for 8 last game. So I would be picking him up. Remember with the Ravens, they don't care about your fantasy lineup. This was one of those games where they actually had to be competitive because the Commanders were making this a little difficult. So Derrick Henry, he's going to be a league winner when it comes down to this. I do have his splits right now for the rest of the season. You're looking at 1,994 yards and 23-ish touchdowns for the rest of the year. Ali was active. Rashawn Ali, the 5th-round draft pick from Marshall, he was active in this game coming off of IR. No usage in this one. Flowers was at 72% snap. I did watch Flowers usage in this game, and you're getting like when they have to use him, you're getting the full load. You're getting design usage. You're getting like actual real routes. You're getting second read. You're getting first read. You're getting all that good stuff out of Zay Flowers. So like 72% snaps, 1 red zone carry, 42 air yards on 9 targets. Like design work. Like this is all good stuff. If you can predict again that usage. Bateman in this one, 69% snaps, 4 for 71, 56 air yards. So he's going to be like one of those guys that are going to be dart throw wide receiver threes. If you can predict the usage, Nelson Aguilar was at 47% snaps. So like that, they're just rotating these guys. Nelson Aguilar is the dirty work guy, and they're just letting these other guys like not waste time doing like dirty work stuff. I don't have much to say about the tight ends in this one. Like Mark Andrews, when I broke this down, he's still low, 50% snaps, 4 for 3 for 66 and a touchdown. That came on 1 red zone opportunity. I want to pull this up. 2 red zone targets. Isaiah Likely, 68% snaps, 4 for 2 for 27. He did get a red zone target to go along with this. So again, like this is good football. This is bad fantasy football when it comes to being able to predict anything. All right, the Saints. I already talked about the Saints when it comes to game flow. So they were down 17-0. They came back 27-0. Or scored 27 points, and then they got shut out the rest of the way. Now, I bring this up because like Spencer Rattler, like I don't care. Probably serviceable when it comes down to it. For the rest of the year, like the main thing, if you're really chasing it, was like the 4 for 27 on the ground. Like there's going to be a certain amount of rushing upside with Spencer Rattler. I probably am more concerned what's going to do to the toys. Alvin Kamara again, like with the hand, and I believe they have a. He's still dealing with the ribs last time I saw, and then they have a Thursday night game. So, like, if you're worried about Alvin Kamara in this game, 74% snap, 13 for 40, 1 touchdown, 8 for 5 in this game, 8 for 5 for 24. Now, remember, vacated targets tend to go to running backs. Kendre Miller, I would imagine that they're going to have to, like, upgrade him at this point, and he's off the injury report. Otherwise, like, it's Jamal Williams, and he was down to, like, 4% snaps in this game. So I imagine like some of this stuff is going to go to Kendre Miller. I'm kind of curious. Jordan Mims, 23% snaps in this game. 1 for 5 and then 4 for 2 for 13. Didn't see that. Anyway, so Chris Olave, remember Thursday night game, he's in the concussion protocol. Definitely not going to play. I'm just going to say that now. Rashid Shaheed misses practice again on Tuesday. And again, I did see that like they are concerned with the knee injury. Cedric Wilson remains limited on Tuesday. So you're looking at like Bub Means being the number 1 option when it comes to the Saints going up against Denver. And again, Denver is a good offense or good defense, so I don't know how much I really would feel good about rolling Bub Means out there, but if you have to. And then the other guys would be Mason Tipkin, 41% snaps, 2 for 1 for 15. If you're in that dart throw range, remember, never trust Thursday night football. Now, outside of potentially like Kendre Miller or Alvin Kamara getting those targets, you are also looking at like Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau. The second tight end would move up there. He's at 49% snaps, but primarily Juwan Johnson, 77% snaps, 3 for 3 for 48, being the main beneficiary if we can get any of that stuff done. All right, and I think that's all for the Saints that I got. So moving on to the Seahawks, and this is another one where like I don't really know how much we're going to be able to predict that we're going to get like 52% or 52 pass attempts. But right now, when it comes to the Seahawks, you're looking at like they have 2 games where they had 40 pass attempts, 2 games where they have 50 pass attempts, and then another game where they had 34 pass attempts in the game. So there may be a certain amount of consistency when it comes to how like the Seahawks are going to play for the rest of the year. Ken Walker in this one, 69% snaps, not efficient, 14 for 32, did have a rushing touchdown, and I did have this written down. 24 red zone carries, 2 red zone targets, like it don't matter at this point. Like he's getting 8 for 8 for 37 in the passing game. They're trying to get him the football. He's getting red zone work. It don't matter. That's a low end RB1 at that point. Zach Charbonnet, 31% snaps, 5 for 20, 1 for 1 for 15. And again, like from a fantasy football perspective, guys' value will fluctuate on a week to week basis. How much we can think any of this is going to stay consistent when I talk about like Kenneth Walker, if they're going to be throwing more, but they're going to be throwing more to Kenneth Walker, a catch is better than a rush. With the exception of like, I don't care if it's a rush or a target when it gets to the red zone, as long as guys are going to get that. So at a certain point, when you look at like Kenneth Walker, and he has like a down week in week 5 against the Giants, where he has 67% snaps, 5 for 19, and then another 8 targets, 8 for 7 for 57. We can sit there and go like, well, that's not sustainable. Until he does it again in week 6, and then we go, well, okay, they're going to throw a lot. Maybe it is sustainable, and that changes the guy's value week to week when it comes down to that. This would be another one when it comes to the Seahawks. Just like the Bears, I don't know how much I would trust any of this going forward. I did see DK Metcalf had like a number. There was an overthrow from Geno Smith, and then there was a touchdown catch that he didn't get his foot down in, and then there was another one that was like a penalty on. So, like, he could have had a better week, 11 targets, 166 air yards, 3 red zone targets. So, like, he's still going to be there. Like, the original stat line said, like, I don't know how much I trust this. Like, yeah, DK Metcalf I trust. Now, Tyler Lockett, 8 targets, 3 red zone opportunities. I'm going to pull this up because I can't read my notes. 78% snaps, 8 for 4 for 65 and a touchdown. And then you're looking at JSN. And again, we're guessing on how much the passing opportunities are going to remain consistent. 95% snaps, 9 for 5 for 53. Fumble not lost in this one. 79 air yards, 2 red zone targets, 3 red zone targets for Tyler Lockett. They all should be rolled out there. If you have them, they all should be rolled out in any given week. There's just no way of knowing like if and when they're going to land. But at this point, like, if you're not rolling them out, you're not going to get the spike week either when it comes to these guys. Jake Bogo is at 15% snaps, 4 targets. That's a dynasty league thing. Noah Fant, 69% snaps, 6 for 6 for 63. And again, this would probably how much we can trust Noah Fant would be like how much we think that they're going to be throwing like 40 to 50 times a game going on for the rest of the year. AJ Bonner was at 26% snaps. All right, Steelers. Whole bunch of stuff with the Steelers. So I don't know when it comes to Justin Fields, because I originally see that they are expecting to start Russell Wilson. I can't believe that as well as they're doing with Justin Fields that they're going to start Russell Wilson. I also saw that Mike Tomlin came back and said like, well, we didn't actually mean that. It's just something we're thinking about. So like, do you when it comes down to that stuff, when it comes to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Now, I will say if Russ starts already, Muth would be he's streamable, but if Russell Wilson starts, I wouldn't stream Muth because like Russell Wilson is notorious for not throwing over the middle of the field. That's where tight ends live. Najee in this one with Jalen Warren being back, you're looking at 46% stats, 14 for 106 and a touchdown, 2 for 2 for 16, and then Jalen Warren being back like off that knee, 37% snaps, not efficient, 6 for 7, 3 for 3 for 11. George Pickens was at 67% snaps, 8 for 3 for 53, 103 air yards and a red zone target. So yeah, like low end 2, high end 3. It's not going to win me a league. That's the long and short of it. And I already talked about Muth. The Texans, and this was sort of a blowout. Again, I talked about like 14-7 at halftime, and then a lot of the work done in the second half. They did trade Cam Akers to the Vikings today. So Joe Mixon, 42% snaps, 13 for 102, a touchdown, 3 for 2 for 30, and another touchdown to go along with that. Like, I don't have a lot to say about that. They bring in Dameon Pierce, and then Dameon Pierce does like 8 for 76 and a touchdown, 1 for 1, and then he popped a 57-yarder late in the game. I can see this, or maybe I wrote it down. 54-yarder in the fourth quarter. So again, like you're cuffing, and we can talk about with Dameon Pierce at this point, like whether or not in deeper leagues that he would be a lottery ticket stash. Dario was at 27% snaps. Akers was only at 3% snaps. So you can kind of see like there's their pecking order. That's why they traded Cam Akers. He's just not in the cards at this point. Diggs was at 7 targets, 94 air yards, 2 red zone opportunities. Tank Dell was at 9 targets, 66 air yards, 1 red zone opportunities with Nico being out. Robert Woods was out. Bobby Trees was out with a foot. Xavier Hutchinson was at 50% snaps. Mechie was at 30% snaps. Expecting that Xavier Hutchinson was going to do like the full load. He didn't do that. Dalton Schultz, 86% snaps, 8 for 4 for 27, 72 air yards. Yeah, if he's available until Tank Dell or until Nico comes back, that's some good stuff. Stover was at 52% with snaps, 1 target. Again, the Texans. So I did see some of the tape on Calvin Ridley, and some of this is like ugly. Will Levis got like bad at football. Well, should say worse at football, and he's already questionable. I think he's another one of those guys that like is not in a very good situation. If he goes to a better situation, he's going to be better off. But Calvin Ridley, some of this is Calvin Ridley. Again, he's going to turn 30 this year. Some of this is Calvin Ridley. Some of this is Will Levis. There's 8 targets for 0. Some of this was Calvin Ridley. Some of this was Will Levis. If you're wondering about that, so I wouldn't be chasing any of those things. DeAndre Hopkins was at 71% snaps, 6 for 4 for 54 and 69 air yards. So again, if there's a guy that I'm chasing in his offense, it's Hopkins at this point over Ridley. I don't want any part of this stuff. They are saying right now that Tajay Spears is going to miss at least a week, and then you're getting full bell cow Tony Pollard. So like, I ain't buying him. If I have him, I feel okay. 74% snaps, 17 to 93 touchdown, 3 for 3 for -5, 2 red zone carries. Again, that's going to be the problem. Like, not a good offense, limited opportunities to score touchdowns on that one, and then that's about all I got. Vikings, they're on a bye. They traded for Akers. I already talked about that. If Sam Darnold's available, like, yeah, he should be picked up. Aaron Jones, I didn't see anything new on this when it comes to his hip. I did see the video. He was out there practicing. I don't know if this necessarily means that he's going to play, but he was out there warming up. I did see the tape on that one. Ty Chandler, any chance that there's necessarily going to be like Ty Chandler, even with Aaron Jones missing time, like with the Akers trade, like I don't know how you could trust rolling out Ty Chandler this week. And then if the longer Aaron Jones missed, the more Cam Akers is probably going to eat into this in general. And then Hawkinson also practiced on Monday. So I believe that's all I got. I want to see if there's anything else to talk about other than what we've discussed. Lucas Kroll is a stash for the Broncos. Ray Davis, I think, has league winner on him one way or another. He might have standalone value, but league winner on him. If he's available, I'm looking at some of the other guys like Khalil Herbert. If you can stash him for the time being and see if he's going to get traded. I imagine if he was going to get traded, it would already happen. Looking at my notes, Troy Franklin in deeper leagues, like that would be the guy to go after. Pierre Strong would be like the rental for the Browns if you need that. Cedric Tillman would probably be the most likely beneficiary of the Amari Cooper trade from the Browns. Sean Tucker, he'd be a guy if he clears waivers that I'd be interested in. Amari DiMercado would be the guy that I would be knife fighting for in waivers or picking him up if he clears 53% snaps. If James Conner's out, Michael Wilson would be like a pretty okay, sneaky, solid wide receiver to be rolling out if Marvin Harrison misses. Vidal might, for the Chargers, combining by Vidal might be league winner, lottery ticket. Ladd McConkey, if he's available, with his 97 air yards, 8 targets this last game. Let's see, pick this up. CEH was activated. I think that just cuts it into all the wide receivers. Juju, if he's available, can be picked up. Stashing Evan Hull. Also like Tyler Goodson, expecting that JT might miss or Jonathan Taylor might miss another week. Adonai Mitchell, if he's available with Michael Pittman, maybe something going on with his back coming out of this. Zach Ertz, if he's available, would be an ad. Noah Brown in deeper leagues, 64% snaps, 106 air yards, red zone target. Austin Eckler may be a bell cow this week when it comes to the Redskins. If you need that. Dowdle wasn't bad for the Cowboys. Looking at some of the other stuff. Grant Calcaterra. Yeah, that's one. I'm definitely rolling him out until Dallas Goedert comes back. When it comes to the Eagles, Tyler Algier, if he's magically got dropped in your league, I'd be looking at that. Tyrone Tracy, if he's available, or don't drop him if you already picked him up. I'm worried about Devin Singletary. He shouldn't be dropped. Darius Slayton's probably a cuff. He should be held on to. Looking at Dearness Johnson's probably going to get a certain amount of run for the Jaguars with ETN being out. So I don't think this is like full bell cow Tank Bigsby at this point. Let's see. Lions. Emmanuel Wilson, roster your cuss, yours and somebody else's. Bo Melton. If everybody is if Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks are out. Bo Melton is a roll. Dobbs and Watson are going to be a roll because Wicks is going to be out regardless. Jalen Colker in deeper leagues is a stash. Looking. Blake Corum, if he's available, he'd be a lottery ticket. Jordan Whittington probably still going to be in wide receiver 2 range, even if Cooper Kupp comes back. Bub Means, if you're really in a pitch, like I can imagine those like 8 or 9 targets are going to be consistent this week with what's going on with them. Kendre Miller would be a stash coming off of IR. Looking. And I think that's about it for everything that I got this week after waivers. And I will be back on, what's today? Friday with the Grift.